Shalom Shabatt. Shalom Yahweh Shabatt. Yes, I'm wearing a snood, and it could also be used as a head mantle, a machata. As long as you're covering your head, you're showing humility to Yahweh. Yeah, so this live stream is titled Thank the Trolls. Well, it's just interesting, really. Psychologically interesting, but well, I want to go and meet this person that remains anonymous from the music industry. He's doing conferences on MK Ultra, music industry, and there's also someone I want to meet who's a Sussex police, ex-police whistleblower, who I'm sure would be very interested to hear everything I've got to say, and this lady's going to put me in touch with him. And this individual who's doing these conferences is also going to be mentioning, well, he has mentioned Jeanette Archer in recent talks. It's just interesting that some of the same trolls who have attacked me for no reason at all, as it so often is, these very disturbed individuals who've got nothing better to do, have been attacking these alleged victims of satanic ritual abuse. And I just find it very interesting, really. It doesn't really matter. But obviously my account has been hacked, Juliet's account. And these trolls, when I say that, when I politely warn someone or ask someone nicely to take down videos of me and they don't, or they've breached my disclaimer, there is there is going to be a consequence for that. I always follow up what I say. Interestingly, Darren said to me in a voice message that a few months ago, he said a woman had commented on his Facebook, trolled him. I don't know anything other than that. Because even if it was in defense of me, that's not exactly going to help, is it? But it just goes to show these individuals have got nothing better to do. If there's any sense that someone's got insecurity or something bad going on in their life, they're onto it. But it's just interesting that there just seems to be a community of not just craft that's scriptural. Even what's the name of that preacher? That preacher from the 70s and 80s, that British preacher, who said that witchcraft, that even a newborn baby is capable of witchcraft by crying out for when it wants something, it manipulates its mother. Interesting. But it's just that we're living in times where it's all completely in your face. and people will be engaging in it without maybe even realizing it. But there are a lot of lost souls. Oh, that's all I can say. And on Facebook, this Imogen Stevens, who commented on my Facebook wall, she Faceless Imogen Stevens, or whatever the Facebook name was. If I was to meet this Imogen Stevens, I can imagine her being a split of Helen James, because the foul language and the exact same attacking, and it's not even worth talking about because it's just vile. But talk about lost souls. I just had a look at this individual's thread, and they were attacking someone, and someone was stepping in saying, "You don't know about this person, don't attack them." And I said, "Excuse me, why did you attack me on my wall?" "Oh, Bryony McCarthy." And I said, "You obviously know a lot about me, because my Facebook name is not Bryony McCarthy. I've used pseudonyms." How lost does a person have to be? How insecure? But it's been very interesting. My YouTube channel was set up to document throughout all my troubles and trauma, and I've got use it for legal evidence. It's for me, for my freedom of speech. It's very simple. There's no loss, harm, personal injury. If you want to ignore that basic common law of the land, but the very people that you're exposing, you're behaving like yourself, like police abusing powers. Part of it, doing it for your own ends. And there are people falsely offering help to those. So yeah, but it's a good thing, really, because I think we have to be thankful in a way for them showing their true colours, because it's going to strengthen those of us who are in the truth, who are seeking that truth, who will keep speaking our truth. And you're attacking a man who, like Jeanette Archer, I had a positive feeling that they were speaking the truth just by watching them on YouTube. A man of God, Yahweh. And just by observing. And I tell you what, if this Imogen Stevens can be so vile, attacking someone they don't know on Facebook, can you imagine what that person must be like in person? If it's not the same person as Helen James, well, they're in the same category. They're just like the people I've had to keep away from for my safety. I say people. Degenerates who attacked me in my council home. But if you can be like that behind a screen, imagine what that person must be like. Oh my gosh. You thank you very much for exposing who you are. Thank you. So, you know, as I said 20 years ago in that little article I keep showing about myself, that's been treated as something rather neurotic, when actually it's just a fact. Brave briny battles on, and then all this corruption, which I've survived, and I'm using faith. So even though Darren brought me to the name of Yahweh and the Hebrew Aramaic scriptures. That's good, because I've turned my back on things that I didn't know were satanic. It was Darren who told me that the green man was satanic. John well, he didn't say it was satanic. Darren doesn't use the word satanic. He just said this is not good. It was John Wedger who exposed it for being unthinkably evil. Like something out of the Wicker Man. I'm going to show off now. Ingrid Pitt paid me one of the biggest compliments I've ever had at the Birmingham NEC, around the same time that Adamant wrote to me. But the Wicker Man, she was in that. And whoa. Even back then, before the internet, I thought to myself, gosh, everything that I've spent my life loving, you go to these festivals, you go to these things, all the pagan stuff made to look all nice. Morris dancers, same thing. The Long Man of Wilmington, witches up there as a child and done something up there. And Darren's friend, Charlie, was part of the Morris dancers who go up there, and Morris dancers are not as innocent as they seem. I've had a go at, when I did the St. Wilfrid's walk, the Morris dancers a few years back, before all this hell, they got me, I used to do in memory of my mother a walk with the St. Wilfrid's thing, and they got me to have a go at doing a Morris dance with them. And that's the kind of thing it's like everything. They're dancing around the maypole, children dancing around the maypole. I used to go to festival, like a summer fair thingy. You'd see children. But the maypole is evil, and it's in the Wicker Man. The children are dancing around this, and it's a phallic object. It's all linked to the same thing. And none other than Edward Woodward, as Chris said, Edward Woodward, who played the police officer on the trail. He was the hunter who was the hunted. My mother and my late mother and my father watched that film back in the 70s. One of the few horror films that they watched in the 70s, how it is now. They watched The Omen. That really was frightening as well, though. It's interesting, really, because my mother did a scene with the Antichrist. Oh, hang on a minute. My live streams are being tampered with again. Surprise, surprise. My mother did a scene in Wimbledon with someone who played the Antichrist in The Omen 3. What's his name? Sam Neill. And I got an Ingrid Pitt came up to me and paid me a huge compliment at the Birmingham NEC. And there you go. Claims to fame, not just Dave Prowse. But talk about the darkness. What makes the Wicker Man so frightening is you can imagine it actually happening. And guess what? Yes, it does happen. And I think that's the only reason why I can't watch the movie in the same way that I did, because that reality has been emphasized even more. And I've met a victim of satanic ritual abuse by accident at the same time as meeting John Alexander Patterson. And it was a Lewis Freemason who put this South African woman in there. And there was this other one who had been trafficked, an ex-prostitute in her 70s, who'd been forced to do disgusting things with animals. And they were mocking her, filming her, because she's a Jehovah's Witness. Not really a lot different to the filth that that you lost souls who watch me and do whatever you're doing. I've had an apology email, which I haven't responded to. I want to go to these conferences, which I mentioned, because that would be money well spent, even if it was with my last pennies. And I spoke to nameless, an anonymous care coordinator, past health and well-being, but health and well-being deals with physical illnesses, more medical rather than mental health. I had a horrendous nightmare the other night. Don't really want to talk about it because of who was in it and the pain that I feel. I don't know what was more frightening, being manipulated. It's like being manipulated by the person who's supposed to love you, and people posing as something out of Serco, because Serco tortured me, didn't they? And waking up, getting out of the truck and finding I was in hellfire. There was a sun setting, and then there was a sun setting on the other side, and I was like, hang on a minute, there's more than one sun. Where am I? There were about 4 suns setting, and it was nighttime, and there were people dancing around the fire, and I thought, no, I'm in hellfire. And that was the most frightening thing. And I woke up, thankfully. That was the frightening bit. But I do think these things come from the dark realm. I had a nightmare about what I now believe to be a baby sacrifice in a hospital, because I now know that disturbing nightmare that I had when I was no more than 6 or 7, now that I know what I know, that nightmare that I remember from when I was little, that's what it was. Well, I don't know if it was so much a sacrifice. It was definitely a ritual. I remember clearly the nightmare. I can't visualize it because I can't visualize something so traumatic. I just remember the nightmare that I had as a child. It was a hospital setting, and it was a newborn baby, and they were doing something over the baby, and then there was sudden thunder outside, and the baby's crying, and they because my nightmares and dreams could be weird, they still are. I know why this second bit happened. She was squeezing what looked like a bottle of ketchup on the baby, and of course ketchup is red, and I remember being frightened, thinking, why is she doing that to the baby? That's what I thought as I was having this nightmare. As I said, I was no more than 5 or 6 6 or 7, I'd say, when I had that nightmare. But I reckon that's what that was. And the ketchup bottle, I know where that came from because I used to watch Count Duckula, and I've watched quite a few things with David Jason in, and I've revisited that, by the way. And that cartoon, at the start of the cartoon, I used to watch it with my mother, Count Duckula. At the start of the cartoon, they're surrounding a pentagram, and Igor gets a cup. This is at the start of the cartoon, and they say, "Oh, blood," and then he goes, "Oops," and he's poured ketchup into it. So I think that's where that came from, because that cartoon was on when I was about 5-6 years old. They used to make good stuff in the 80s. I say good stuff, but they're surrounding a pentagram, of course, you know. So it's all, I believe all these things come from the spirit realm. And of course, David Jason, sadly, he's got a knighthood. So he's in the club anyway. I mean, when my father used to serve him back in the early 80s when he was in Only Fools and Horses. So it's kind of really sad, all this stuff. I've met a lot of people who've met famous people as well. In one of these temporary accommodations, a guy told me he used to go to the pub with Nicholas Lyndhurst, and he really did take drugs. But I get talking to so many people. But the nightmare I had 1 or 2 years after that first one I mentioned was very disturbing, extremely disturbing, because it involved my mother. And I always had a fear of losing my mother. I had some horrible nightmares. But it's the one where my teacher sat me on her lap and I was crying, and the people on my table, the children, were laughing when I said I had a nightmare about my mother and she was naked. Of course, they laughed, didn't they? And I burst into tears, and they're thinking, what's wrong? What I didn't tell them or anyone else, not even the teacher who sat me on her lap, was that what was disturbing about the nightmare was not the fact that she was naked so much. It was my priest, our priest, Father Chris, because I went to a Catholic church, and say no more, Satanism in the Catholic Church. Because, you know, they do, in America, they've done satanic rituals underneath Catholic churches. Well, I've read at least one story about that. And I didn't know what Satanism was when I was a child. Now I do. But in the nightmare, they've taken her out from underground and put a cloak around her. My mother's naked, and my Father Chris is there, and some kind of policey military people. I don't know what they were, but they were authority people in authority. Now, I didn't know what Satanism was, but at the time, obviously, I believe that nightmares and dreams are connected to the spirit realm. And believe me, in my family and in that house, some things happened from the spirit realm. Now, if you ask Dr. William Snowblum, the there isn't anything he hasn't been. High satanic priest, high Freemason, high Wicca priest, and he's now preaching the word of Yahweh. I think it's really interesting. I'm looking forward to his next video, because he had an ex-high druid who was above him say to him in 1973 that the Prince of Wales was going to marry a woman with the the name of a goddess, and that their son would be like King Arthur. And then they're talking about Prince William, and the woman who took the name, well, Diana. So that was back in 1973 that this high druid said this, and that's exactly what happened. So I'm looking forward to his next video, because in 1981, Diana fell pregnant with that child, William. Now, you know, similar things have happened within my family, because my late mother's biological mother said that this woman would have a baby boy and that it would die, because she could read tea leaves, and tea leaves sounds like a load of nonsense, but it's not, because Kay scared herself, my mother's mother. And I think she's passed on that sort of psychic, because that's what happened. This woman did have a baby boy and it died. So she terrified herself. She never read tea leaves again. Her son, my mother's brother, was into tarot cards. My eldest sister once said to me, I thought that you were a psychic child. We all thought there was something about you. Well, there's always been something about me, you know. But this is something that, which is why I like Dr. William Snowblum, because scripture says you've got to be, I can't remember what he said the Hebrew word for peculiar is, but be peculiar, be the set apart ones. I've definitely been set apart all my life. Whatever it is, I've got that heightened knowledge. And the Satanists, these occultists, use the mental health services and the social engineering to discredit people like me. Remember that. I'll say it again at some point in the future, because I know this live stream is being tampered with. I believe everything happens for a reason anyway, but some strange things happened in that house. I mean, in the end times, the wrath of Yahweh will come down upon us for all the blood that has been shed. And William Snowblum is talking about persecuted and murdered Christians, but he's also talking about baby sacrifices, including abortions. Now, my late mother had an abortion, an illegal abortion, 24 years before I was born in Pennsylvania. She told me that at the end of her life in one of the hotels, but she went to a Catholic priest to get her sins absolved. So what I'm trying to say is, she actually thought, I think she said she'd thought about getting rid of me as well. Sometimes I wish she had. But I realise I'm here for a reason. I'm talking about when the suffering gets so bad. You know what I mean? I thought about taking the jibby jab. And I thought, no way. I'm not taking the jibby jab, however bad things get. That's how, you know, I'm someone who goes through such suicidal periods. It is like someone's actually torturing you. Well, that's what the Satanists do. They do spells on people. They do, and you have to pray for your hedge of protection. That's why I'm saying Shalom Shabatt. I got my hedge of protection. But in the last days, the wrath of Yahweh will come down heavily on those who have done these evil atrocities. But my mother prayed for forgiveness, and she told me in tears about what happened to her. It's horrendous. She's not like these people who use it as a form of contraception. Times were hard in the 50s. People took advantage. The man who did that to her was selling his body to others. I thought he could have given her a disease or something. As for the rare cancer, I don't want to talk about that, but I'm here for a reason. I'm here to spread the message. And but William Snowblum did say that abortion is used as a form of satanic sacrifice by these ones at the top who have influenced us, including me. I was for abortion before all of this, before I knew all of this, before I even knew my mother had had an illegal abortion. I was for it because, let's face it, those who are the guy I want to meet said life is not going to be worth living when the Great Reset comes. If they go ahead with this New World Order, it will be a dystopian nightmare. So guys, use cash. Use cash. It wouldn't be surprise me if me using card payments recently, I've only been using card payments and not cash because I've been so drained from what has been done to me. Do you see what I mean? They've set it up this way. So it wouldn't surprise me if that was part of it. But this man I want to meet, whose name remains anonymous, but he's doing a lot of good work, not just exposing the music industry. We've got to really, there's a shift that's happening right now. But I'm here for a reason. Obviously, I've come from one of those funny families, but I happen to be the black sheep of the black sheep. And yeah. So all those things that happened in that house, those apparitions, they were entities, including the one that impersonated me when I was a child, fooled from the dark realm, fooled my middle sister. And she'll always be my sister, and I'm praying for her to come back. She's been living as a man. My sister, my middle sister, and her best friend saw me when I wasn't there. And I said, sure it wasn't my doll or something, because I got dolls, life-size dolls. No, it was you. You had your hair over your face. Haunted, what they mean is possessed, taken possession of by entities. Ghosts do not exist. There's a story in the Bible about that. Ghosts don't exist. It's apparitions from the dark. The dead are not conscious. Okay? They're dead and gone. But they will be the first to be resurrected. They will be taken up first, is my understanding. So I need to read the Bible. I know bits and bats, shall we say. But even aliens, like the UFOs, because in MK Ultra Mind Control, what the CIA know, that the whole UFO phenomena is not what we've been told it is. But my mother and my sister even saw an oval shaped right outside my bedroom window. I saw little people, fairies, again, from the spirit realm. It's all part of the whole pagan ideas. These things are not what we've been sold that they are. They are from the dark realm. And we are coming into another pagan festival, which will be another nasty, evil time of year in the satanic calendar. Did you know that birthdays are the highest day on the satanic calendar? And the birthday cake, the idea of the round cake with the candles, apparently that comes from a moon, something to do with the moon and the glow of the moon represented by the candles. It's something pagan, it's something satanic. Connection unstable, it's being tampered with again. Right, anyway, I've said what I wanted to say. I've gone on longer than I wanted to. But I'll keep repeating these things. And yeah, I find it all extremely fascinating, to be honest. I've always been fascinated. And big shout out to the late, what was his name? Max Spears. To this person that I want to meet for diverting my attention, and wow is all I can say. Talk about super soldier. Even if he wasn't a victim of the CIA and some sort of satanic ritual abuse, the amount of information. Anyway, that's me done. But anyway, all these trolls. I'll just finish by saying all these trolls have done is give the people that they're attacking far more credibility. Far more credibility. If you can really go out of your way to be, wow. It just says a lot about you, really. Why don't you get a life? Why'd you go around attack? I know the answer to that question. Because you've got nothing going for yourself. You're going to go out of your way to attack these individuals are not happy unless they're attacking other people. So I've blocked that Imogen Stevens, Helen Janes, whatever. I don't know if it's the same person. I couldn't care less. There are too many of them. I privately shared my number with just a few people, including Dan from Police Abusing Powers, Tina Chave of the Independent Advice Network, Matt Taylor, who, if you can't even get off your asses and actually speak the truth, if all you can do is engage in all of that, you're doing Satan's work, and you will not inherit the kingdom of Yahweh. You can keep attacking people. You can attack me, attack people. I don't want to know. This is my channel for my documentation. If anyone wants to watch it, I speak my truth. If someone doesn't like me telling the truth because I'm disappointed because someone lied to me or they let me down professionally, and then they threaten me, and then they get their minions onto me. No. Wow. It's really sad. But this is my channel for my documentation. It's for my personal use. I'm hoping and praying that normal and mature people will be watching me. I will get Juliet to have a look at that. And she said she's going to shave, and her private information was taken, and I would get her to listen to the police phone calls because I've let the people here know about it. The discrimination from Sussex Police and my claim against the council. And for the first time in my life, I'm not ashamed of having mental health. Speaking out, I've got nothing to lose. When you're at rock bottom and you're climbing up, when people have pushed you down, and the corruption, there's only one way to go. And I'm going. And I'm going to die speaking the truth. And I feel such a sense of relief. Yes, I'm being attacked. Yes, I'm getting demonic attacks. But I can't do anything about that. And Darren said, Yahweh said, do not worry about things you have no control over. Well, no. So, but it's made me go, and I tell you what, all this evil and attacking these good people, all you've done is made me go and look at them and friend request them. And I've blocked the trolls and the nasty, the ones that are obviously trouble. Life's a lesson. You're never going to always, how do you know if someone's a sociopath? You don't. That's just it. You don't. Because they work in places of trust. You give people a chance. I'm a loner because of how the world is. I don't understand the world. I had a chance to do child fashion modeling. I wanted to be a Hollywood actress. Fashion child modeling could have led to that. Oh my gosh, am I glad I didn't. And that was before the Freemason shoved his tongue in my mouth and said, if you want anything. And before Dave Prowse, aka Darth Vader, used to ring me up. That was before all of that. I don't want to know. I have no interest in drama. I want to keep up. As soon as I walk out that door, just people keep away. Keep away. If I wanted to be an attention seeker, going to the Adamant gigs and dressing like a Babylonian whore, well, I would say some of that is programming, trying to look as outrageous as possible and wearing those demonic 7-inch platforms, which everybody wanted. Yeah, because then I was into idolatry. I look more like a satanic slut than Georgina Bale, and she was in a group called the Satanic Sluts. And she said, "Oh, aren't you tall?" And Adam said the same thing, but like me, they were shy, so they used their persona and all that MK Ultra programming to break out of that shyness. They used their visual, and I've done the same. But it's not me, though. It was never me. One of the women at the Adamant convention, she once shouted at me, but that was before she turned funny. I won't say her name because she might watch it. She might watch this. I know that there is at least one ant person watching me. But apparently she said, I thought Bryony was a bitch. Looking at her, I thought I thought she might be a horrible person. Sorry. Excuse my language. But that's because I was dressing like barbed wire. That's what inspired me, is the black leather and the corsets, and trying to be as outrageous as possible. But I know the self-defense techniques. But I don't. Everything I'm saying might sound big-headed, and it really isn't meant to sound big-headed. Neurotic at best, but not big-headed. Never, ever. Oh my gosh, I've spent my whole life tearing into myself. That's how I've ended up like this. It says connection unstable. Yeah, loser-friendly Pisces women, but my mother used to say Bryony's the go-to person for astrology. Well, on Christian camp, if only I'd listened to that lady who wouldn't tell me her birthday, because she said she just wouldn't tell me why. And I just thought, why? And then at college, this OTT funny boy, that's Lewis Tertiary for you. It's a bit like being in one of these places, saying to me that astrology is evil. It's evil. I threw away my Leo mugs. It's evil. And his whole face, his chubby face just went like that. And he was quite a funny boy. And I thought to myself, why is astrology evil? But no one would tell me why. It was Darren's friend who said, it's witchcraft. I was into it. He said it's real, but it's not good because witches and warlocks have messed about with it. So that would actually explain why Alan mentioned a couple of star signs when talking about the constellations. Don't know why. Because I don't know where in the Bible it would talk about Aquarius, or because that really is witchcraft full on. But I can tell you now that it is real astrology. I read even the Illuminati books, because I read some of the books when from the age of 11. So, but I think everything, I had to come this far though and do a sort of like a, turn around again. And had I not gone into those things, I wouldn't be where I am now. I think it's the same with William Snowblum. He's got all this spiritual knowledge and general knowledge about the Windsors and all of that. The British royal, he knows that Britain's in a bit of a state. Even Bill, Dr. William Snowblum, he knows the UK's in a state right now. And as I said, I'm looking forward to his next video because, as I said, it was a druid that told him that back in 1973 that the Prince of Wales would marry a woman who would take on the name of the goddess, the Diana, and because that was her name, Diana, and that they'd have a son who would become like King Arthur or something of that nature. So yeah, and he used to drink blood. He was an 84th degree Freemason, and he's exposed the Shriners, he's exposed the Mormons, and there's someone whose name I won't mention who is in the community who trolled me. Well, she turned funny. Targeted individual who knows about the Masons, and I looked at her Facebook pictures, and there was a picture of her outside the Church of Latter-day Saints, which is the Mormons, and they're extremely satanic, just like Jehovah's Witnesses. All comes from Freemasonry. But yeah, I had a very interesting conversation with the lady who's helping to organise the conferences, which I'm just keeping shush about. But I told her about brownie guides and the witchcraft rituals. Oh, my head covering is not on. My snood. But basically, I told her about what I did in the brownie guide rituals with the, the toadstool and the owl of Moloch. And she said, oh, the owl of, she said, oh, Bohemian Grove. And I told her I recited the guide motto. And I can tell you it's not the same in America because Helen from New Haven, I told her about this, and she's the same age as me, and she said, well, it wasn't like that when I went to brownies in America. Her mother's American. Because she was still living in America before she came here. And I said, yeah, well, the queen, do your duty to queen. It's not the queen, it's Queen Esther. Because I told her that we were blindfolded and you do that ritual. And I said it was a brown owl that pointed this out. And I said, it's like Disney World, though. I went to Walt Disney World as well around the same time that I was initiated into the brownies. Peter Pan programming, MK Ultra. This is what the Satanists have been doing for decades. But they've just perfected it. It's the frog in a boiling pan. But now people are, it's like someone slapped them in the face. They're waking up a little bit now. So they're catching up with us lot who are... Anyway, so there we go. I've been talking for nearly an hour. Once again, I wanted this to be like 10 or 15 minutes, but I expect it will be tampered with. Hey ho. There we go. I'm interested in seeing this person who's been attacked, though. I've forgotten what his name is, who supported Jeanette Archer because he was pulled over by the police, and I need his encouragement. But the same idiots who've attacked him have attacked me. Vile creatures. But it's really sad, but thanks anyway, is all I can say. There we go. That's me done. There we go. Shalom, Shabatt. And I'm always praying for those closest to family, even though they're not actually there, my blood relatives. Oh, talking of blood relatives and bloodlines, because I mean, Madonna is related to Camilla Parker Bowles. It's all about bloodlines. To be famous, it's usually to do with the bloodline, rather more so that than someone saying, hey, do you want to sell your soul if you want to get in the club and all that and be famous. I wonder about my grandmother's. I'm named after Anne Boleyn because my grandmother, my adoptive grandmother, was blood related to Anne Boleyn. I don't know if Anne Boleyn had royal blood. I should know, as I'm heavily into Anne Boleyn. I was very one of the reasons why I wrote to Jim or Fix It was because I wanted an Anne Boleyn costume, and my mother was going to make me one, but never got round to it. So that's still on my bucket list. But my grandmother was related to Anne Boleyn, and I'm named after. My middle name is Anna, and my grandmother was Annie. So, yeah, loved Hever Castle, happy memories, except for the torture room. There's a horrible room in Hever Castle that should not be at Hever Castle. Why the Astors allowed that, I do not know. But there's a torture room in there. They've actually got a headsman's axe. They've got things in there that make you feel sick. You just can't actually believe that. So I kind of like, whilst I've got the connection where I'm named after Anne Boleyn and my grandmother was blood related to her, my mother said there was a family tree and it said related to the Boleyn family, because there's different ways of spelling Boleyn. There's Boleyn and then there's Boleyn, U-double-L. So I wonder if there's any kind of, because let's face it, this country has got one hell of a dark, gory history without the Satanism. I mean, I'm traumatized by the London dungeons. They had, I mean, they on the haunted house at Thorpe Park, they had my grandmother's whatever she cousin, I don't know, Anne Boleyn was on the Thorpe Park haunted house. And of course, then there's the London dungeons, which traumatized me for life. It's probably why I have some graphic nightmares. But you know, I just wonder about everything. When you put it all together and go like that, it's like, whoa, you know, this is life, spiritual stuff, all the dark stuff. Everything is just dark. It's all very dark. And yeah, it just makes me wonder, that's all. I'd just be interested to know. I wish I'd asked more questions. I mean, I'd be shouting it out from the rooftops if I was related to Anne Boleyn, but my grandmother was very much like my mother, very, yeah, she's one of those things. My mother was like, you related to Anne Boleyn? Yeah. Yes, dear, I know. No big deal. I'm like, the weird thing is, I got into Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, and then my mother sprung it upon me. Oh, did you know that you're named after Anne Boleyn, your middle name? And grandma was, and I'm like, really? But apparently it's quite common, because I was in Iceland one day about 6 years ago, and I don't know how I got onto the subject, but the girl on the till said to me, oh, I think I was wearing the Anne Boleyn necklace. And she said, I've got that necklace. So am I. I was like, what? You're related to Anne Boleyn? I said, I'm jealous now. I said, you're directly. I said, I'm not blood related, but my adoptive grandmother was. So I was a little bit jealous. But this thing about bloodlines, I'm now wondering about the satanic stuff, because Henry VIII was into some dark stuff, wasn't he? I mean, he actually had a personal astrologer, interestingly. But it's the royal families, the bloodlines. I mean, the Queen, she was a druid. It was John Alexander Patterson who said to me, go and have a look up Satanic Britain. Go and have a look at the pictures and of the Queen as a young woman with the Archbishop of Canterbury and the Druids, because you know, in the Catholic Church, the Jesuits, oh my gosh, the Jesuits, high satanic order. But you look at what the priests are wearing, even just the priests, the things, those is it the bishops, those things come from the pagan, and the halos, the pictures of halos are nothing to do with the Bible. It's to do with the Greek, you know, when they wore those things around their heads, because pagan mythology and Wicca merged with the church. And anyway, there we go. That's me done. So I just so much for a head covering, a makata, instead of a snood. Shalom Yahweh, and it's been good having a good rant. If you don't like what I say, there's a big red button that says unsubscribe or just don't watch me. And I don't look at troll comments, but I have put my warnings out there. They became warnings. I very politely asked if those videos of me and those doubled accounts of me would be removed, and they haven't. So that doesn't mean I'm not taking action. It's just I'm trying to get better. But anyway, thank you to the trolls. And good night.